All the boys fell for the new beautiful girl, except the black boy she really wants. The morning sun broke through the tall windows of Seoul International Academy, casting golden light across polished floors and designer backpacks. Students moved through hallways like models on a runway. Everything here was about appearance, status, and who knew who. The chatter was constant, a mix of Korean and English, laughter bouncing off lockers decorated with idol posters and luxury brand stickers. Then the classroom door opened, and everything stopped. She walked in like dawn breaking over the Han River, graceful and impossible to ignore. Ara Ming. Her long black hair caught the light as she moved, her skin flawless, her presence magnetic. She wore the school uniform like it was custom-made, and when she bowed slightly to the teacher, every movement seemed choreographed by fate itself. The boys in Class 2A collectively forgot how to breathe. Juno's basketball slipped from his hands and bounced away unnoticed. Nonso straightened his student council badge, suddenly aware of every wrinkle in his shirt. Even Kim, who usually exuded effortless wealth and confidence, found himself staring like he'd never seen a girl before. The teacher cleared her throat twice before anyone heard her. "Class, this is Ara Ming. She's transferred from Seoul Arts Academy. Please make her feel welcome." Ara smiled politely, her voice soft and clear. "Hello everyone. I look forward to getting to know you all." Perfect Korean, with just a hint of something musical underneath. Whispers exploded the moment she spoke. "She's gorgeous. Is she a trainee? Did you see her eyes? I'm going to ask her out." "No, I am." By the window, completely untouched by the chaos, sat Chinonso David. Everyone called him Nonso. He had warm brown skin that seemed to glow in the sunlight, thoughtful eyes currently focused on the sketchbook in his lap, and white earbuds tucked into his ears. His pencil moved across the page in steady strokes, capturing the way light filtered through the leaves outside. The world could have ended and he wouldn't have noticed. His friend Tund, sitting beside him, elbowed him hard. Bro, did you see her?" Nonso pulled out one earbud. "See who?" "The new girl. She's literally the most beautiful girl I've ever seen in my life." Nonso glanced up briefly, his eyes passing over Ara without really landing, then returned to his sketch. "Cool." The earbud went back in. Tund shook his head in amazement. "You're insane, man." But Ara had seen it. In a room full of boys falling over themselves to catch her attention, there was one who hadn't even looked twice. She felt something unfamiliar twist in her chest, curiosity mixed with something she couldn't quite name. As the teacher directed her to an empty seat near the front, Ara found herself glancing back at the boy by the window, still drawing, still completely in his own world. If you're enjoying this story so far, hit that like button and let me know in the comments what you think will happen next. The rest of the day unfolded like a strange performance Ara had seen 100 times before. Between classes, boys materialized out of nowhere with offers to show her around, carry her books, explain the school system she already understood perfectly. Juno appeared at her locker with his brightest smile and an invitation to sit with the basketball team at lunch. Nonso intercepted her on the way to the cafeteria with a formal invitation to join student council. Kim simply appeared beside her with an expensive iced coffee he claimed was extra, though the condensation suggested he'd been holding it, waiting for the perfect moment. She was polite to all of them, grateful but non-committal, her eyes constantly scanning the crowds. And then she saw him again, the boy from the window. He was walking toward the courtyard alone, his backpack slung over one shoulder, his fingers tapping an invisible rhythm against his thigh. Ara made a decision. She politely excused herself from Nonso's detailed explanation of council responsibilities and followed. The courtyard was quieter, trees providing shade over scattered benches. Nonso had claimed one in the corner, his sketchbook already open, his earbuds back in. Ara positioned herself at a nearby table, close enough to observe, but not so close it seemed obvious. She pulled out her own sketchbook, something she'd always kept private, and began to draw. For 15 minutes, neither of them looked up. Ara kept sneaking glances, watching the way his brow furrowed in concentration, how his lips moved slightly like he was talking to his drawing. His hands moved with confidence, each line deliberate. She found herself sketching him without meaning to, capturing the angle of his jaw, the way sunlight played across his dark skin. The bell rang. He packed up efficiently, stood, and walked right past her table without a single glance. Ara sat there, pencil hovering over her incomplete sketch, feeling something she'd never felt before. Invisible. Days blurred together in a pattern that became both frustrating and fascinating. Ara Ming, who had never had to pursue anyone in her life, found herself constructing elaborate plans just to be near someone who seemed completely unaware of her existence. She discovered his schedule by carefully noting when and where he appeared. Third period, he had art in the West Building. Lunch, he usually spent in the courtyard or library. After school on Tuesdays and Thursdays, he disappeared entirely. She changed her elective to art, claiming she needed to maintain her portfolio for university applications. The art teacher, delighted to have a student from Seoul Arts Academy, welcomed her enthusiastically. On her first day in the new class, Ara deliberately chose the easel next to Nonso's. He was working on a portrait, she realized, something hauntingly beautiful and precise. A woman's face, older, with kind eyes and lines that spoke of laughter and hardship both. "Your shading technique is incredible," Ara said softly, her first words directly to him. Nonso paused, pulled out an earbud, and looked at his canvas as if seeing it fresh. "Thanks." Still working on the depth around the eyes. The emotion is already there, though. She looks like she's about to speak. He considered this, his head tilting slightly. "That's my mom. She talks a lot, so yeah." A small smile touched his lips, barely there, then gone. Ara's heart did something complicated. She wanted to ask more about his mom, about where he learned to draw like that, about the music he was always listening to. But he'd already put his earbud back in, returning to his work. She picked up her brush and began her own piece, something modern and expressive, all bold colors and emotional strokes. She poured her frustration into it, her confusion, the strange ache of wanting someone's attention and not getting it. 30 minutes later, as students began cleaning their stations, Nonso's voice startled her. "That's really good. The color contrast, it's like feeling and structure fighting each other." Ara turned, trying to keep her expression neutral despite the warmth flooding through her. "Thank you. I love what you're doing with the light in yours. The way you capture texture and—" But he was already packing up, offering a polite nod before heading to the sink to clean his brushes. Ara stood there, sentence unfinished, watching him go. Her friend Hannah found her after class, recognizing the expression on Ara's face immediately. Hannah was sharp, artistic in her own way, and had known Nonso since middle school. "You like him," Hannah said simply, falling into step beside Ara. "What?" "No, I just think his art is interesting." Hannah laughed. "Ara, you switched your entire schedule. Everyone's talking about it. All these boys are losing their minds trying to get your attention, and you're staring at the one guy who doesn't even know you exist." Ara's cheeks heated. Has he ever dated anyone?" "Nonso." Hannah considered. "Not really. He's friendly enough, but he lives in his own head. Art, music, his volunteer work. Girls have tried, but he just doesn't notice that way." She paused. "Why do you care so much?" Ara didn't have an answer that made sense. How could she explain that his indifference felt like the first real thing she'd encountered in years? That everyone else's attention felt hollow compared to the brief moments when he actually looked at her? Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. This story is about to get intense. The breakthrough came by accident. Ara was scrolling through the community service board, looking for activities that might look good for university applications, when she saw it. Youth Arts Program, Mapo Community Center, Thursdays 4 to 6 p.m. And there, in the list of volunteer coordinators, was his name. Chinonso David. Thursday afternoon, Ara walked into the community center with her art supplies and a carefully rehearsed explanation about wanting to give back through art education. The coordinator, an older Korean woman with warm eyes, welcomed her enthusiastically and directed her to the main activity room. And there he was, sitting cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by children of various ages, helping a small boy with his drawing. His whole energy was different here, open and warm, his smile genuine and frequent. He wore a simple black t-shirt and jeans, and somehow looked more himself than he ever did at school. "This line here," he was saying in patient Korean, guiding the child's hand. "See how it curves? That's how you show something is round, like it exists in space." The boy, maybe 7 years old, nodded seriously and tried again. When he got it right, Nonso's face lit up with pride. "Yes, exactly like that. You're an artist, my friend." Ara felt something crack open in her chest. A little girl noticed her standing in the doorway and ran over, tugging her hand. "Are you here to help too?" "I'm painting a flower, but it's hard." Ara let herself be pulled into the chaos of creative children, setting up at a table near where Nonso worked. For an hour, she lost herself in helping kids mix colors, showing them techniques, encouraging their wild ideas. She was so absorbed she didn't notice Nonso watching her until she looked up and caught his eyes on her, something like surprise in them. When the session ended and the children were picked up by parents, Ara helped clean up the paint-splattered tables. They worked in comfortable silence until Nonso spoke. "I didn't know you volunteered here." His voice, without the background noise of school, sounded different. Richer somehow. "I just started today," Ara admitted. "I wanted to help kids discover art the way it helped me." He nodded slowly, really looking at her for maybe the first time. "Why art?" The question was simple but felt enormous. Ara found herself answering honestly. "Because it's the only place I can be myself. No expectations, no performance. Just truth on canvas." Something shifted in his expression, recognition maybe. "Yeah," he said quietly. "Exactly that." They talked while cleaning, really talked. He told her about coming to Korea when he was 12, how art and music had been his Korean teachers, better than any textbook. How drawing helped him understand people when words failed. She told him about growing up with pressure to be perfect, how painting was rebellion and freedom mixed together. "See you next week?" he asked as they left, and it felt like winning something. But at school the next day, reality crashed back. Juno cornered Nonso by the lockers, his friendly basketball captain's smile nowhere in sight. "Are you dating Ara Ming?" Nonso looked genuinely confused. "What? No. We just volunteer at the same place." "Good. Keep it that way." Juno leaned closer, his voice dropping. "She's not for someone like you, understand?" Nonso's expression went carefully blank, a look Ara would later learn meant he was hiding hurt. "She's not for anyone. She's a person. You know what I mean. Stay in your lane." The words spread like fire. By lunch, everyone was whispering about Juno's warning, about Ara and Nonso at the community center, about whether something was happening between them. When Ara heard, filtered through Hannah's worried retelling, her blood went cold then hot with rage. She found Juno in the cafeteria, surrounded by his teammates, and walked straight up to him. The conversation died. "Don't ever," Ara said, her voice low and shaking with anger, "presume to tell anyone who I can or cannot spend time with. You don't own me. No one does." Juno's face flushed. "Ara, you were just being exactly the kind of person I have no interest in." She turned to leave, then looked back. "And for the record, Nonso is worth 10 of you." The cafeteria erupted in whispers. Ara didn't care. She was so tired of this, the posturing and politics, the assumption that she was a prize to be won. She found Nonso in the library later, told him what happened. "You didn't have to do that," he said quietly. "Yes, I did." What he said was wrong. Nonso studied her face, and for the first time, she saw him really see her, not just glance and move on. "Why do you care?" The question hung between them. Ara could have deflected, could have made it about principle or justice. Instead, she told the truth. "Because you're the only person who's looked at my art and seen me. Everyone else sees a face, a status. You saw the truth I painted." His eyes widened slightly. Before he could respond, the librarian shushed them, and the moment passed. But something had shifted, become undeniable. The school festival was announced the following week. Annual tradition, students performing talents, usually a popularity contest where the most famous kids won by default. Ara was immediately pressured to participate, everyone assuming she'd do something solo and stunning. She had a different idea. Finding Nonso was easy now, she knew his patterns. He was in the art room after school, cleaning brushes. "I have a proposal," she said, her heart hammering. "For the festival. What if we collaborated? Live painting while you play music. Your sound, my vision. Together." He turned, surprise clear on his face. "You want to perform with me? I want to create something with you. If you're interested." Nonso was quiet for a long moment, his eyes searching her face for something. Whatever he found made him smile, a real smile that transformed his whole face. "Yeah, I'm interested." They started meeting after school to plan, awkward at first because this was different from volunteering or brief classroom exchanges. This was intentional, collaborative, intimate in the way creating together always is. Ara learned that he played guitar, that he listened to old R&B and Afrobeats and jazz, that music moved through him like breathing. He learned that her art was instinctive, emotional, that she painted feelings rather than objects. "What if," Nonso suggested during their third planning session, "I play something that builds, starts quiet and grows. And you paint that journey, what the music makes you feel." Yes, Ara breathed. Exactly that. They practiced in the art room, door open as required, but lost in their own world. His guitar wove melodies that made colors bloom in her mind. Her brush danced across canvas following his rhythms. It was magic, pure and simple, the way their creative languages spoke to each other. Other students noticed. Of course they did. Jealousy in a place like Seoul International Academy was inevitable. Juno watched from doorways, his jaw tight. Kim made snide comments about charity cases getting opportunities. Mincio started a rumor that Ara was only helping Nonso for diversity points. But worse than the gossip was what came next. Someone spray-painted Nonso's locker. The words were cruel, racist, designed to remind him he was other, different, unwelcome. Ara found it first, before Nonso, and was scrubbing at it with paper towels and water when he arrived. Ara, stop. No. This is disgusting, it's hateful. I'm used to it. Those 4 words broke something in her. She stood, water dripping from her hands, and looked at him. Really looked. At the careful blankness in his expression, the way he held himself like armor. You shouldn't have to be used to it, she said, her voice cracking. None of this is okay. For a moment, his armor cracked too. She saw pain there, and exhaustion, and something like gratitude that someone cared. Thank you, he said quietly, for being angry for me. Always, she promised. The day before the festival, they had final rehearsal. The art room was empty, rain drumming against windows, creating a cocoon of sound around them. Nonso played and Ara painted, and somewhere in the middle, the performance became something else, a conversation without words about identity and belonging, about being seen and choosing to see. When he played the final note and her brush stilled, they stood in charged silence, looking at what they'd created. The painting was alive, colors flowing like music made visible, capturing every emotion his guitar had pulled from her. Nonso, Ara said, her voice barely above a whisper. Why didn't you notice me before? He set down his guitar carefully, his hands shaking slightly. I noticed. I just didn't think someone like you would want someone like me to notice. What if I did want that? She stepped closer, her heart thundering so loud she was sure he could hear it. What if I've wanted that since the first day? He looked at her then, really looked, and she saw everything in his eyes, surprise and hope and fear and want. They were inches apart, the rain outside and silence inside, and the world narrowed to just this moment. The art room door slammed open with a bang that made them both jump. Juno stood there, flanked by Mincio and 2 other boys, all of them holding phones up, recording. Knew it, Juno said, his voice ugly with triumph. This whole project thing was fake. Just an excuse. Everyone's going to love this, Mincio added, his politician's smile vicious. Seoul International's newest couple, how sweet. They left, laughter echoing down the hallway. Ara's phone started buzzing immediately. Then Nonso's. The video was already uploading. She could see it in their satisfied expressions as they walked away. Nonso's phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Ara watched his face change as he read it, watched him shut down completely, walls slamming into place. What is it? She asked, reaching for him. He pulled back, shoving his phone in his pocket. Nothing. I have to go. Nonso, wait. But he was already packing his guitar, his movements jerky and wrong. Maybe we shouldn't do the performance tomorrow. What? No, we can't let them. I said I have to go, Ara. He left, walking out into the rain without even grabbing his jacket. Ara stood alone in the art room, surrounded by their unfinished creation, and felt panic claw at her throat. Her phone continued buzzing, notifications multiplying. She finally looked. The video was everywhere, titled New Girls Charity Project, with comments flooding in. Some supportive, but many cruel, targeting Nonso specifically with words that made her feel physically sick. Someone had created a poll asking if their relationship was real or if Ara was just using him for attention. And then another message appeared, sent to the school's anonymous gossip account and immediately reposted. Screenshots of text messages, obviously fake but disturbingly convincing, purporting to show Nonso bragging about landing the hot new girl for social status. Ara's hands shook as she read lie after lie, watched poison spread in real time. This wasn't just gossip anymore. This was character assassination, designed to destroy everything they'd built together. Her phone rang. It was Hannah. Ara, don't look at the comments. Just don't. This is going to blow over. They're destroying him, Ara said, her voice hollow. They're making him into something he's not, and he's going to believe them. He's going to think I'm ashamed of him. Then prove you're not. Tomorrow, at the festival, show everyone the truth. Ara looked at the painting they'd created together, half finished but already beautiful, already honest. She thought about Nonso walking alone in the rain, thought about the careful way he'd built his walls, thought about how he'd let her in anyway despite knowing this could happen. She picked up her brush, dipped it in paint, and kept working. If he wasn't going to show up tomorrow, she'd perform alone. She'd make sure everyone knew exactly who Chinonso David was. Not the lies they were spreading, but the truth. The artist, the volunteer, the boy who saw people for who they really were. The boy she was absolutely, terrifyingly falling for. If you want to see what happens at the festival and whether Ara can fix this, subscribe now because part 2 is going to break your heart before it heals it. Drop a comment and tell me, what would you do in Ara's position? And don't forget to like this video if you're as invested in this story as I am.